Hi, it's Lori from Coast to Coast Craft Girls coming to you from the West Coast. Today I wanted to share a card or a couple of cards. I posted this quite a while back, and I got a lot of requests asking about the measurements for an A2 version. This is a 5x7 card. And I got a lot of requests for A2 measurements. So I sat down and figured it out, and but I also realized after I agreed to do that A2 in the US versus a metric A2 in the UK is different, or in Europe. So I'm going to do one of each. This is an A2 card in the US, which is 4¼ inches by 5½. And so that's an A2 in the US, and I'll do that one first. And then this is I guess I've been calling it a metric A2 or A2, or kind of a European A2, and it's 15 centimeters by 10½ centimeters, which is about 4¼ inches by 6 7/8. And I'll do that one second, but I'll give you the measurements for both. But we're going to start with the US A2. So started just with my mat layer, and again, this is 4¼ by 5½. So my mat layer is just about 1/4 inch lower. And so to get that pleated look, it's going to look like that. To get that pleated look, you need a piece of card. And this is, I went ahead and did, it's just shy of 5½. It's about 5¼ by 7¼ So 5¼ by 7¼ And then the scores are at 1¾ and then 2¼ 3¾ 4¼ 5¾ and 6¼ And that gives you essentially 1 inch. So you got an inch, and then this is an 1¼ inch because you got a little bit left over with a 1/2 inch fold back. So the way that you kind of figure it out is you think about if you want 4 pleats and you got, 4 inches across, or 4¼ in this case, you got an inch, an inch, an inch, an inch, and then these are 1/2 inch back. So to get that to be a 1 inch piece here with a 1/2 inch fold back, you have to go at 1½ between that score line and that score line, and then a 1/2 inch fold back, and then 1½ inches and a 1/2 inch, right? So that's how you do it and figure it out. And then I cut my mat layers these are actually about 1½, because that's how big this piece is 1½, because you got a 1/2 inch of it folding back on top of the other piece. Okay, I'll show you how, if you didn't see my other video, the way that I did my my layers here, my patterned paper, is I just kind of lined it up on top to get the angle right, and just bent it over, and then took my scissors and cut just up from that. Okay, and that gives you the perfect angle, just like that. And then I'm going to do that with all the rest of them, and then I'll glue this up, and I'll go on to the next card. Okay, now I got that all glued together. I just need to add a sentiment and maybe some gems down here. And there's this is the US A2 size. These florals are the Crafter's Companion Alluring Anemone layering florals. And then this paper is from the Crafter's Companion subscription box. I can't remember which one, but anyway, so there's an A2 version of that card, so per everyone's request. So now let's go on to the metric A2, which again is 15 centimeters by 10½ centimeters, or 4 1/8 inches by 6 7/8 inches. So very similar to the other card. So I've got my matte layer, and I'm going to do it in the same cardstock. So this cardstock is so just about 5 3/4, so the full length of that, or just under that, by 7 inches across. So 5 3/4 by 7. If you don't want it to go all the way to the bottom, just cut it shorter. But oh, and then the angle, I measured down 2 inches on this one and on the other one, 2 inches, and then you cut from that 2-inch mark to the second score line, not the first. Well, you could cut to this first score line, but then you wouldn't get the nice overlap, right? So cut from the second score line. And this one, 5 3/4 by 7, I scored at 1.5, 2, 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5. So again, it's 1.5, 1/2, 1.5, 1/2, 1.5, a half, and then that gives you your various lengths. And then I'm going to go ahead and mat these up, and then I'll be right back with you and we'll finish this card up. Now, before I glue this together, I know a couple of people have asked about metric measurements. So I do not work in centimeters, but if you do, let me give you some measurements here. So this piece of card is just about 18 centimeters this way and 15 centimeters high. So 15 centimeters this way, 8 centimeters that way. I cut at 5 centimeters here and then cut that angle from 5 down to that first score line. Let me give you the score lines, or at least approximate. I don't know if they're going to map exactly. So this one is just about 4 centimeters, and then, so 4 centimeters, and then 5, and then 9 and 10, and then 14 and 15. Okay? So 4, 5, 9, 10, 14, 15 in centimeters. Since I've been asked, I thought I'd I'm trying to remember to help people with both metric and imperial measurements, but since I'm in the US, I generally work only in inches. So. And I tend to do most of my cards in 5 by 7, or sometimes 6 by 6 if I do a square, or honestly, if I do a square, I try to do 5 smaller than 6 by 6, so like 5.5 by 5.5 or 5 by 5. And the reason for that is because in the US, sometimes they'll charge you more for postage with a 6 by 6 envelope. But if you do it 5 or 5.5, it'll fit in like a 5 by 7 envelope, or they have envelopes, standard size envelopes that are, I forget what they call them, but they're like 5 3/4 by 7.5 or something like that. And if you can get your card to fit in that, then it's cheaper. So I try to do that, which generally means that I try to stay smaller than a 6 by 6. For this one, I used the Altenew Japanese Anemone flower dies, and I just cut them in a light pink cardstock and then added a little red ink around them before I put them together. Okay, so there's my A2 versions of that card. This is my US A2 and my European A2, using the Crafter's Companion florals and the Altenew florals. Hope you like that. Pretty happy with those. I don't usually make that small of cards, but they're quite nice. Thanks for watching.